Welcome to the first lecture on disaster risk management. In this lecture, I am going to overview the concepts. The word disaster is very familiar now. Many people can able to say what is disaster. Many countries, many organizations disaster in a different manner. The nodal agency, United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reduction, defined disaster as a serious interruption of functioning of a community or society which creates a widespread human, material, economic, and environmental losses and impacts. Here I would like to emphasize that disaster denotes that our ability is not able to control or manage the serious interruption of the society. So, whenever, wherever the local people or community or governance not able to manage the conditions, then those serious interruption we call it as a disaster. When I say the ability, then the disaster becomes scale dependent. If happen in a village people not able to control the disaster, then we call it as village level disaster or local disaster. If it is happened throughout the country not able to manage, then it become a national disaster. The disaster happened throughout the globe. International community not able to control the situation, for example COVID-19, then it become an international disaster. In my title I said the disaster risk management. Disaster risk usually associated with the degree to which a human cannot cope up with a particular situation. The disaster risk has three variables, three important components. The first one is hazards. Later I will explain what is hazard. The second one is vulnerability, or simply say exposure of population to the hazard. And the third one is the coping capacity, which is normally linked to resilience of the community. So I coined three different words: vulnerability, hazard, capacity, as well as I use the word resilience. So in the lectures we will discuss these important concepts. Hazard is a dangerous phenomenon which may create a loss of life, injury, property damage, or lead to loss of livelihoods and services. And sometimes without loss of livelihoods, it creates socioeconomic disturbance. Sometimes it creates environmental damage also. The second one is vulnerability. Vulnerability is the characteristics or circumstance of a community, sometimes entire system, that make susceptible to the damaging effect of a hazard. Coping capacity, it's our ability. Our ability in the sense not only a people ability, even it is ability of a governance, ability of all the organizations in a country or in a administrative unit, or the ability of the system. So using this ability or available skills and resources, if you are able to manage adverse conditions, for example disasters or emergencies, then you are capable. As I told you, disaster risk is a product of hazard, vulnerability, and divided by coping capacity. Say for example, if you have 2 units of hazard and 2 units of vulnerability, then you have the product of 4. Your coping capacity is 4 units. able to like control or manage both hazard and vulnerability, then your disaster risk will be negligible. But in natural conditions or in general conditions, the product of hazard and vulnerability is much more, whereas the denominator coping capacity is always less. So we always have a disaster risk. Please understand that you can't prevent completely the hazard. You can't reduce the people exposure. The only thing government or governance or even individual can do is increasing the coping capacity, which will contribute greatly to reduction of disaster risk. When I say the coping capacity, nowadays we are using one more term to denote the coping capacity, that is called resilience, which is nothing but ability of community to bounce back to its original state after a shock. Say for example, community is functioning 100%. Immediately one hazard happened, one like impact, say for example volcanic eruption. Then immediately the function of particular society or particular area reduced, for example. If they have a good coping capacity, they can able to mitigate the problem, they can prepare themselves well in advance, and they can come out easily from these hazard effects, then they can again function normally without any trouble. This is called resilient community. But in most of the situation, that won't happen. Rather, they used to have a very less coping capacity. They can't like come out completely aftermath a disaster. Rather, using their available resources, they come out 50%, 60%. Then they try to continue the situation, and their development, their socio-economic development, everything will be affected aftermath hazard or disaster. But every country envisioning to build back their nation better, for which the community should be resilient. Then only we can able to manage the adverse situations effectively. Now I will go deep into differentiating the word hazard and disaster. Sometimes we interchangeably using the word hazard and disaster, but it has some difference. The left side you can see a river, but it is overflowing, so we call it as a flood. The right side you can see a city, highly densely populated area. Here, the overflowing of water, we call it as a flood. The flood, we generally call it as hazard. If the flood meet the community, then it becomes disastrous. So until people or environment suffered, we generally call it as hazard. Once suffered, we call it as disaster. So here both the components are important, hazard as well as vulnerability or exposure. So whenever or wherever you have overlap between hazard and the society, you will have a disaster. Then one more word we are using, that is called the risk. Already the flood affected people, created a loss. The event already happened, a real event happened, then that we call it as a disaster. Disasters are real historical events. In future, similar event going to be happen. Flood next year will also come and affect these people, then we call it as a disaster risk or risk. It is nothing but a probability of a disaster in the future. So that's why I name it this lecture as disaster risk management. We should not just manage the disaster, rather we should focus on disaster risk management. So I would like to ask you a question. Say for example, if I ask you a question that which river, Lena or Ganga Brahmaputra, has the greatest potential for flood risk? I hope you are aware about Siberia is less populated, but whereas Ganga Brahmaputra riverine areas are thickly populated, even though the hazard is more and more over Siberia. In Ganga and Brahmaputra Delta, both the hazard as well as population exposure, people exposure also more. So here the product is more and more. So the answer is Ganga and Brahmaputra. Ganga and Brahmaputra have a greatest potential for flood risk compared to Siberia or Lena Delta. So this determines the product of hazard and vulnerability determines the disaster risk. With one more example, I would like to explain you. Say for example, there is a hazard. That hazard happening at a different intensity. Sometimes it happens at lower intensities, sometimes it happens at higher intensities. Again, another side, people exposure. Some of the people exposed very limitedly, which means that they have higher coping capacities. Say for example, rich people. Some of the people very nearer to the river bank, they are exposed highly to the flood risk, which means the exposure is very high, as well as if they are poor, they have a low threshold, then vulnerability is very high. Now we just say, so this is the area where sometimes if hazard is with the higher intensity, flood with the higher intensity, definitely this low-lying people, people nearer to the river bank, people have like a poor economic background, all this creates higher risk. If they want to happen with the lower intensities, very limited people exposed, then risk will be low. In between, we would have medium risk also. So the disaster risk always determined by the products of hazard and vulnerability. So one more confusions we may have, that is the difference between emergency and disaster. Of course, all disasters started with some kind of emergency. Emergency is a situation generated by a real event that requires immediate attention. Say for example, one house got fire, then immediately we have to put off. But if you are able to manage the situation, then that we call it as only emergency. The situation generated, we controlled. But whereas the same fire happened over a wider geographical region, lakhs and lakhs hectares of forest land got fire, then the government, the local people, all surrounding people is not able to control the situation, then we call it as a disaster. So all the hazards initially start like an emergency. When emergency moving beyond our control, it becomes a disaster. Again, this origin of hazard or disaster, because most of the disaster we call it or we name it on the basis of hazard. The origin of hazard or disasters normally from general function of the society or general nature. Say for example, rainfall. If rainfall happen within the average limits, then we call it as a normal rainfall. it is manageable limits. Sometimes the amount of rainfall may be higher and disturbing or exceeding our like a threshold of managing normal management, then we call it as hazard stance. But some of the hazards, even though it's overflowing, disturbing people, but people can able to control it, can able to manage it until it reaches the coping capacity or coping threshold. But if the flood go beyond out of control of governance or control of community, then it become a disaster. It is also true to the opposite side. If the amount of rainfall is very, very less, but within our manageable threshold, then we call it as a hazard, but we can able to manage it. But if it is beyond our coping threshold, even drinking also not possible, drinking water also not available due to very, very less reduction of rainfall, then we call it as a drought disaster. So the origin of hazard and disaster happens always from the natural process or the deviation of natural process, either positive or negative, which induce hazard or disaster. So you can't completely prevent or avoid hazard and disasters. Just imagine if you completely avoid of receiving rainfall to avoid like flood, then what would happen? The opposite would happen. There are various types of hazards and disasters, normally classified into two broad groups. One is natural induced hazards or disasters, another one is human made. So all the activities or events caused by identifiable human actions, then we call it as a human made or otherwise natural. Amongst ongoing disasters or hazards, natural induced hazards or disasters are predominant, which affects millions and millions of people every year. Amongst natural hazards, widely occurring natural hazard throughout the world is flood. Almost 30 to 35% of people every year affected by flood. So flood is the single most dominant natural hazards affecting our world. In addition to flood, the coastal area affected severely by cyclones. Interior regions mainly affected by flood, whereas the coastal regions highly affected by cyclones. Some places, cyclone activities are much more than the flood. Interior parts, especially interior continents, frequently affected by drought. In terms of geographical region, drought covers a larger area. It extensively affects people. Another serious most problem is the onset of drought, you can't notice it. Sometimes after drought occurred, then only you can able to say that, oh, drought started. Again, the drought and flood are two sides of coin. Some of the places affected frequently by flood, some of the places frequently affected by drought. And more important, drought and flood occur simultaneously over a globe. Some place experiencing higher amount of rainfall, some place experiencing lower amount of rainfall, which cause both flood and drought. Apart these three, flood, cyclone and drought, the fourth most dominant disaster in the world is earthquake. Earthquake happened normally in a narrow zones. Usually we call it as the zones of ring of fire and mid oceanic ridges or mid mountain systems. But it affect peoples in a bulk within a fraction of a second. It will affect millions and millions of people, and some places frequently affected by earthquake. Likewise, like earthquake, tsunami also one of the dangerous hazard or disaster. Again, most of the tsunami induced by earthquake only. Submarine earthquakes induced tsunamis. Coastal areas affect greatly by tsunami, but it happens very seldom. Hilly regions normally affected by a typical hazard called landslides. Again, there is a positive correlation with earthquake, landslide, and flood. These three are combining or like bouncing affect disasters. So one induce other, like say for example, flood induce landslide, or earthquake induce landslide, or landslide induce flood. Apart, the history repeats here and there with major biological disease outbreaks. Say for example, COVID-19. Again, it affects millions in number, create a huge life loss. If you look at disaster trends, this graph represents from 1900. The first half of last century not witnessed higher number of disasters per annum. Say for example, around or less than 50 number of disasters happen every year throughout the world. Whereas the second half of last century witnessed multifold increasing number of disasters annually. Especially around 2000, it reaches the maximum. Around 500 disasters happen every year. After that, every country vigilant and took lot of measures, disaster management measures. Then now we are try to reduce the number of disasters, but still around 400 events happen throughout the globe. Just opposite, first half of last century witness higher number of deaths in a year, even though the number of disasters are very minimal, dotted, but each disaster creates widespread human loss. But the second half of last century witnessed abnormal growth in medical field, science and technology, which contributes greatly to reduction of life loss. Almost life loss we reduced, but the people affected increased after 1960s, which means that they are not dying, they are not like people not affected or people not injured much, but they lose their property, they psychologically affected, their services interrupted, their system collapsed. Okay, such kind of disaster induced effects increased after 1960s. Again, the damage also. After 1980s, the amount of damage, economic damage induced by disasters are very, very high. Especially meteorological and hydrological related disasters. These two, meteorological and hydrological induced damage, are very, very high. This is mainly due to the changing climatic scenarios, which is highly correlated with disaster events, especially after 2000. So why disaster matters? Almost, I told that the number of disaster events increasing day by day, especially after 1970s. This is very much prevalent countries like India. If you take India exclusively, the risk induced by multiple hazard is very, very high. So we are in the second position. We are the second most dangerous country in the world in terms of multi-hazard disaster risk, next to Bangladesh. So disaster management in India is very much required to manage our natural resources, or otherwise natural resources will be affected by the disasters. How can we manage it? I will demonstrate you with this slide. Here also I would like to emphasize again the concepts. Say for example, the part of stone is falling down. This falling down stone, we call it as a hazard. If no one exposed, no problem. If a person exposed to this falling down stone or rock, then he is exposed, so we have vulnerability. So disaster risk is a product of hazard and vulnerability. If he has a good coping capacity, he can able to control the falling down rock piece, then the risk will be very less. But he don't have such kind of coping capacities. He is very poor. He is not able to do. He don't have proper systems. He is just simply exposed to the hazard. Then risk will be very high. So definitely we have to manage it in order to reduce the life loss or disaster risk. How can we manage it? There are three broad previews or scenarios. One is prevention. With the help of our coping capacity or this person's ability, if he can able to stop or arrest falling down of the stone, then the disaster risk will be nil. But he don't have such kind of facilities or capacities, but he can able to at least reduce the impact of falling down the stone by protecting himself. This we call it as mitigation. He is not arresting hazard, he simply reduce his exposure through mitigation activities. The third dimension is he is not able to prevent it, he is not able to mitigate it, but he has a good preparedness systems. He appoint a person to look over this falling down stone. He is keenly watching. When it is falling down, then he immediately inform all other people, community, then community escape and reduce their impacts. So this is called the preparedness. So if you want to manage the disaster, you have to adapt any one of these three. This situation, management situation or management process, we call it as a disaster management cycle because we have to continue the management activities. Say for example, there is an event, there is a flood which affects people. Immediately what we have to do? We have to respond to the event, we have to recover the people. So response and recovery is the immediate step aftermath disaster. But This approach is called backward approach because the event already happened. To the happened event, now we are doing something to manage or to control the situation. But to avoid such kind of events in future, we have to look forward. Among us looking forward, the first step is assess the risk because now we have evidence. There was a flood, people affected. Then immediately we have to do a risk assessment. So what kind of flood? What was the intensity level? Who exposed? What is the level of their exposure? So that we have to assess systematically. Once you assessed the delineated areas, these are all the areas affected, these are all the people affected, then we have to start mitigation and prevention activities, both structural and non-structural. Sometimes you can't construct bank throughout the river to protect or to strengthen the walls to arrest the flood. Rather, you can do regulation. Say, for example, land use regulation. Nearer to the river, only this kind of land use to be there. Settlements should not be there with this buffer limit. Or wherever you have a more flood levels witnessed in the previous event, then we have to regulate it. After that, we should make aware the people. We have to prepare a plans to prepare the community. Sometimes the event may happen because you can't simply avoid a river. We need a river for a resource, as I told already. So flood also would happen. So in order to avoid the adverse situations, then we can plan in a better manner. So that planning we call it as a preparedness planning. Then the fifth part is the prediction and warning, especially cyclone-like disasters. So we have to keenly watch the path of cyclone or path of other hazards. Then we have to inform people to protect themselves. So if you want to manage disasters, then you have to continuously manage under all these broad areas. Then only we can able to reduce disaster risk in future. I told you country like India and Bangladesh suffer a lot. Why? Here vulnerability matters. Earlier we believed that hazard is more important in a disaster, but later we realized that the rising number of disaster, it's not due to merely hazard. The same earthquake events happened throughout the globe since 1800. But the people exposure increased after 1960s, 70s. Population boom is the matter. More people exposed, more disasters. Then people realized the importance of vulnerability. Now the concept of vulnerability has been widened. Vulnerability has two sides. One is internal sides, another one is external side. External side is our exposure to the risk, whereas internal side is our capacity. The same people have a good capacity after exposing to certain hazard, then they can able to reduce the amount of damage. So vulnerability, it's not simply exposure, which is also includes resistance and resilience. If you have a more resistance to withstand a cyclone, to withstand a flood, withstand drought, then our impact will be less. As well as after event happen, after disaster happen, I have a power to come out. I have a capacity. I have a good resilience. Then your vulnerability level is very less. So vulnerability equal to exposure plus resistance plus resilience. This vulnerability generally associated with certain groups and certain people. Generally, poor tend to suffer worst because of less resistance and resilience. Likewise, certain groups like old age people, they are exposed like engaged people, but they have a less resistance, less resilience. So they can't come out their own. They need assistance. So vulnerability matters when you want to manage the disaster. With this, I just stop it. In next lecture, we are going to discuss how these technologies, especially geospatial technologies, help us to manage the disasters and how these technologies help to build back better the nation. Thank you.